The Archer's Lesson.
The mountain breeze carried the scent of pine and earth as the young champion strode confidently into the clearing. His reputation preceded him. His skill with the bow was unmatched, his precision legendary. The crowd murmured in admiration as he notched an arrow, took aim at the distant target, and released it effortlessly. The arrow struck the bull's eye with a sharp, resounding thud. Without hesitation, he fired a second shot, splitting the first arrow perfectly. A wave of pride surged through him as he turned to the Zen master, who had watched quietly from the sidelines. "There," the young archer declared, his voice laced with triumph. "Can you match that?" The master, an elderly figure with deep-set eyes that held the wisdom of countless years, did not reach for his bow. Instead, he simply nodded and motioned for the champion to follow him. Intrigued, yet slightly perplexed, the young man obeyed. They ascended the mountain, their path winding through towering trees and rocky cliffs. The air grew thinner, the silence more profound. After a time, they arrived at a deep chasm, a yawning abyss that seemed to stretch endlessly below. A narrow, weathered log spanned the chasm, its surface worn smooth by the passage of time, its stability questionable with every breath of wind. The master stepped forward, his movements as fluid as water, and walked with graceful ease to the center of the log. He stood there unshaken, the abyss gaping beneath his feet. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted his bow, fixed his gaze on a distant tree, and fired. The arrow sailed through the air, striking its mark with unwavering accuracy. Then he turned and beckoned to the young champion. "Now it is your turn." The archer stepped forward but immediately felt the weight of fear pressing upon his chest. His legs trembled as he stared into the depths below. There was no safety here, no firm ground beneath him. The confidence he had wielded so effortlessly moments ago now crumbled, replaced by hesitation. His hands, steady in the comfort of the tournament field, now felt weak, uncertain. His breath came in shallow bursts, his mind clouded with doubt. He could not force himself to step onto the log. He could not even lift his bow. The Zen master watched with quiet understanding. "You have mastered the bow," he said gently, "but you have yet to master yourself." The young man lowered his gaze, humbled by the lesson before him. Skill was not merely about technique, it was about the mind, the spirit, the ability to remain unmoved in the face of fear. True mastery was not measured by trophies or applause, but by the unshaken stillness within.
The General's Coin.
The morning sky hung heavy with mist as the army trudged through the valley, their armor clinking softly in the uneasy silence. The soldiers, though disciplined, could not hide the fear in their eyes. They were about to face an enemy far greater in number, and doubt crept into their hearts like shadows at dawn. At the head of the army, the Japanese general rode with steady resolve. His posture was firm, his gaze unwavering. He carried the weight of victory before the battle had even begun. He knew that war was as much a battle of the mind as it was of swords, and uncertainty was a foe more dangerous than any adversary on the battlefield. Sensing the unease among his men, the general halted the march near a small shrine nestled against the slopes of the mountain. Its ancient stones whispered of countless prayers offered by warriors before battles past. Gathering his soldiers around him, he led them in silent meditation, their hands pressed together, their breaths deep and steady. The wind rustled through the trees, as if carrying the blessings of unseen spirits. Then, with quiet assurance, the general pulled out a worn, golden coin. He held it up before the gathered men, its surface glinting faintly in the dim light. "We shall now leave our fate in the hands of destiny," he declared. "If it is heads, victory will be ours. If tails, then defeat awaits. Let destiny reveal its will." He tossed the coin high into the air, and all eyes followed its arc. Time seemed to slow as it spun, reflecting their hopes, fears, and the weight of what was to come. It landed with a light clink upon the shrine's stone steps. Heads. A surge of energy rippled through the ranks. The soldiers, once weary and uncertain, erupted in cheers, their hearts ignited with unwavering belief. Gone was the fear that had paralyzed them, replaced now by an unshakable conviction. If destiny had spoken, then there was no doubt. They would triumph. With renewed vigor, they charged into battle, their swords flashing like lightning, their cries fierce and unstoppable. Against all odds, they overwhelmed the enemy, their confidence transforming them into an unstoppable force. Victory was theirs. As the dust settled and the cries of war faded into the wind, a lieutenant approached the general, awe filling his voice. "No one can change destiny," he murmured. The general smiled, the knowing glint in his eyes holding a secret yet to be revealed. He reached into his pocket, retrieved the same coin, and flipped it to the lieutenant. The young officer caught it, turned it over in his palm, and then his breath hitched. Heads on both sides. The lieutenant's eyes widened as realization dawned upon him. The victory had never been about fate. It had been about belief. The general had not relied on destiny. He had shaped it. With a quiet chuckle, the general turned toward the setting sun, his expression unreadable, yet filled with a wisdom that stretched beyond words.
The ego unveiled.
The prime minister of the Tang dynasty was admired far and wide. His victories in battle had secured the empire's borders, his wisdom in governance had brought prosperity, and his name was spoken with reverence throughout the land. Despite his stature, he prided himself on his humility and devotion to Buddhism, often visiting his favorite Zen master, a man known for his sharp wit and profound insights. On one such visit, the prime minister entered the modest temple and found the master seated in quiet meditation. He bowed respectfully before taking his place. "Your Reverence," the prime minister began, his tone sincere, "I have pondered much on the teachings of Buddhism, yet one concept continues to intrigue me. What, according to Buddhism, is egotism?" The Zen master slowly opened his eyes, studied the prime minister for a long moment, then, without warning, his face turned red with indignation. His voice, sharp and scornful, cut through the tranquil air. "What kind of stupid question is that?" he barked. The prime minister recoiled, his breath catching in his throat. His hands clenched involuntarily, his pride stung by the sudden insult. A wave of anger flared within him. How dare the master speak to him, the leader of the empire, in such a manner? Just as swiftly as the outburst had come, the Zen master's expression softened into a serene smile. His eyes twinkled with quiet amusement. "This, Your Excellency," he said calmly, "is egotism." The realization struck the prime minister like a bell sounding in an empty hall. His anger dissipated, replaced by understanding. In that single moment, he saw the truth, the wounded pride, the immediate reaction to being slighted, the instinct to assert his importance. It was not status that made one egotistical, nor wealth, nor power. It was the clinging to the self, the inability to let go. A slow smile spread across his lips as he bowed his head in reverence. The lesson had been taught, not in words, but in experience.
The overflowing cup.
The professor strode into the Zen master's humble dwelling with an air of confidence. He was a distinguished scholar, respected in his field, and had spent years studying philosophy and Eastern thought. Yet, despite his extensive knowledge, something still eluded him: true understanding. Hoping to gain deeper insight, he sought the wisdom of the renowned Zen master. The master, an elderly man with a serene presence, welcomed his guest with a silent bow and motioned for him to sit. The room was simple, adorned only with a small mat and a low wooden table. A gentle breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine from the garden outside. As the professor settled in, he immediately launched into a discourse on Zen, recounting theories, interpretations, and teachings he had studied. His words flowed rapidly, his enthusiasm evident, as he sought validation for his knowledge. The master, listening patiently, made no response. Instead, he quietly retrieved a small clay teapot and 2 cups, setting them before them. With deliberate movements, The master lifted the teapot and began pouring tea into the professor's cup. The warm amber liquid filled the cup to the brim, but he did not stop. He continued pouring, letting the tea spill over the edges, cascading onto the table and pooling onto the floor. The professor watched in astonishment. His brows furrowed as he observed the steady stream overflowing. Finally, unable to contain himself, he exclaimed, "Stop! The cup is overfull. No more will go in." The master met his gaze with a calm smile. "You are like this cup," he said softly. "How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" The professor sat in silence, realization dawning upon him. He had come seeking wisdom, yet his mind had been so filled with preconceived ideas, opinions, and intellectual clutter that there had been no space to receive true understanding. He had been so eager to prove what he knew that he had forgotten to listen, to be open, to allow new insights to flow in. Humbled, he placed his hands together in gratitude. In that simple moment, he understood. Before one can grasp wisdom, one must first let go.